Welcome to Couch Quarterbacks.
How's it going, guys? Welcome to the Couch Quarterbacks Super Bowl special, y'all. I don't know if you guys knew it, but we have a big game, the Super Bowl. We're allowed to say it because we're not sponsored by anyone.
The NFL national championship.
I've seen so many funny things on advertisements, the big game. And you know what's funny? Speaking of advertisements, this year cost, I think, $5 million for a 30-second ad. You know?
Oh, yeah, just pocket change.
Yeah, of course. You know what? A funny thing I heard that they are actually releasing some of the commercials early. So I don't know who you are, but if you want to watch all the commercials beforehand,
I feel like they've done that before, though. I feel like there's there's a website dedicated to it,
yeah,
or there's always some sort of leaks and they show it
that's
early.
That's no fun. That is no fun.
Because it seems like during the Super Bowl, there's always a handful of commercials that are just carryovers from whatever company. It's wait a second, I've seen that commercial before, so
yeah. I mean, so we're looking forward to the commercials, but obviously we have a big game. Halftime show is actually going to be good too.
Well, and I was going to say this is kind of a bittersweet moment for us, Stein, because it's all right, the biggest game of the NFL season, obviously, but then it's also a sign that the NFL season's come to a close.
That's true. Well, the new season, the new year, and free agency will be starting pretty quick after.
Yeah,
and
we have a decent turnaround.
We have a lot of movement going on with the NFL. Also, realize that the week is a little bit. We're 1 week behind what we usually would be.
Yeah.
So that's one less. That's one less week where we're just going to get carried right into baseball. Hopefully, baseball.
That's a whole different
that's
animal
a whole nother story. And then baseball carries us into summer camps getting going for college and NFL, and then we're right back into the mix of it, watching Red Zone on Sunday, and I'm just eating Willies, and it's amazing. So that's how it's gonna go. But this is the end of the season. Last game, we actually had some awards last night.
Yeah,
we'll quickly recap those.
Not very many surprises, I would say, in terms of the awards. A lot of guys that were kind of expected to win.
Yeah, NFL honors last night. Let's see some of those we can think. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers winning MVP.
No surprise there.
No surprise there.
Cooper Kupp,
I thought Brady had a chance though. Defensive Player of the Year was T.J. Watt. Rookies of the Year were pretty obvious with Parsons and Jamar Chase.
Vrabel, Coach of the Year. That was probably the most debatable, but I wouldn't say that Vrabel didn't deserve it. It's more that there were so many good candidates up for the position.
Zach Taylor.
Taylor. So.
I mean, they use the regular season. They don't use that, obviously, because regular season, it was postseason included. Rodgers probably wouldn't be the guy. But looking at some others, one assistant coach was Dan Quinn, assistant coach of the year.
Okay, I didn't realize that.
Also, the NFL had a fan of the year, which was a Falcons fan.
Yeah, I was going to say, you told me about that last night.
And then the last one, there was the Hall of Fame inductees, nothing really notable. I think Richard Seymour is the only name I really recognize, Georgia Bulldog. But a really cool one I like is the Man of the Year award, guy who usually does the most service and it gives back the most. And that was the ageless 40-year-old Andrew Whitworth on the Super Bowl team Rams. So that was awesome.
That's a nice accolade for him, and of course a great story really with him just with starting his career playing the first 11 seasons or whatever with the Bengals, and then now being with the Rams and being one of the very few that's a 40-year-old guy in the NFL, and especially at an offensive line position.
No matter the result on Sunday, I think he wins. This has definitely been an awesome season for him, and a guy who's from LSU. I always liked him, even when he was on the Bengals. So I hope he can finish out, and maybe he'll have the Lombardi, maybe he won't. We'll see.
Yeah. But let's get into it. So how we'll kind of break down this episode is we'll get into kind of some background information about the game and everything. Then we'll go into the Rams, the Bengals, how they've gotten to this spot. And then we'll save for the end kind of a positional breakdown of who we think has an advantage at each position going into the Super Bowl. So we'll start off with just kind of the general background information about the Super Bowl. We got the Rams right now sitting at a 3.5-point favorite. They open as a 4-point favorite, has dropped down to 3.5. I think a lot of people are betting on the Bengals for this game and just love Joe Burrow, love the story of the Bengals, and just they're the kind of underdog story, the comeback kids.
They're riding the momentum, and they're kind of seeing this LA team as just all glitz and glam, whereas this Bengals team is more blue collar, more like lunch pail, get the job done, whereas LA is
they
fast sports
traded
car.
everything for it.
Yeah, they're like the Dodgers. They're the same city. They paid all this money, and they're in they're in their home stadium, which is funny because most other teams, I could say maybe 28 other teams, if they had home Super Bowls, it would be filled, despite the prices, like filled with the team's fans. But LA, it's a very lackadaisical, I would call it, fan base. And plus, have you seen those prices? I'm sure they've been going down slowly because they were really exorbitant. Like a few weeks ago, I've seen 5 digits for Super Bowl tickets.
Yeah, depending on how close you want to be.
Yeah, I've even seen like $1 million boxes. I don't know if you saw, but Antonio Brown has like $1 million box or whatever.
Oh, I'm sure he might get a little camera time.
He might get a little screen time
when they go pan through like the celebrities that are at the game.
But this is just a lackadaisical fan base. So, and the Bengals fans, I feel like, are a little bit more passionate. They've had to struggle, whereas pretty much the entire LA existence of the Rams, they've been pretty decent.
Yeah.
And the game's at 6:30. It's 6:30 start time.
So 7:00.
Yeah, basically. Going to be on NBC, so that's going to be our boys. Alan Chris. Really excited for that.
That should be a nice commentary crew for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, everyone likes Al. So
over under 48.5. I feel like that's kind of when we get to our score predictions, I'll tell you whether or not I'm thinking over or under for that game.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, SoFi Stadium is the location. Back-to-back years that we have a team in the Super Bowl technically hosting it.
Yeah,
even though the Rams are considered the visiting team for this game.
Yeah, and also last year's was also technically a COVID game, so limited attendance. So I guess we haven't had like a full-on team be the home team within a Super Bowl. So that's and it's the Rams. I don't know if you guys knew this, but it's the Rams taking on the Bengals.
Do you guys know who is in the Super Bowl? I mean, it's been a couple. We had the Pro Bowl last week, so a little bye week before.
Since both of them were 4 seeds. Also, quick fact that this is the first battle of 4 seeds in the Super Bowl, which is kind of interesting. We've seen wild card teams win, and we've seen top seeds get in, but I guess like that middle of the pack is a little bit more difficult.
Well,
sometimes.
remember a couple weeks ago, like everyone was surprised when both the 1 seeds went down. We thought the bye was so important to get that number 1 seed and get the bye week, and then you saw the Bengals beat the Titans, you saw the Packers end up losing to San Fran, so that's how you lost some of those top seeds and you got the lower seeds to make their way through the playoffs.
I mean, the Bengals were on the road, for pretty much.
They were at home for the first game,
against the Raiders,
and then road against Tennessee, road against Kansas City,
and then the Rams have been home warriors. They haven't had. They had to go to the Buccaneers place, but they've been at home. So, kind of interesting in terms of travel. I don't think this is really going to affect the game. Like, I think they do. They plan ahead so well that the Bengals having to travel to the West Coast, there's not going to be much of a difference.
Yeah, I mean, they've been out there for probably about the past week or so it's not something where they get traveling.
No, they did have a pep rally, I think, on Monday night or Sunday night in Cincinnati. That might have been seeing them off, though.
Okay, yeah, it probably was kind of like a going away, like wishing them goodbye or whatever.
Yeah.
Some other quick facts.
I was going to say, well, it was a funny thing because they had a pep rally at this Bengals stadium, 30,000, 40,000 plus fans, whereas they had a pep rally for the Rams at a high school with like a few thousand fans.
Interesting. Well, I guess it is kind of a little different for them in terms of them not really having to travel or go anywhere.
Yeah,
so and I mean we've talked about how like the fan base can be kind of wishy-washy, but some other quick facts about the game itself. The second matchup between number 1 overall picks at the quarterback position. A little trivia question. The other one was Cam Newton, Peyton Manning back in, I believe, Super Bowl 50.
I would have thought
2015.
I thought maybe one of those 80s matches of Montana or something like that.
Yeah, no, this is the second one. The other one happening about 5-6 years ago. And then this is the youngest matchup between head coaches in the Super Bowl. Obviously, Sean McVay, only 36 years old, his second Super Bowl appearance. And then Zach Taylor at 38 years old.
Yeah, and that's kind of speaking on the NFL as a whole, as we've seen both the Broncos and the Dolphins hire young guys.
It's like the next big thing is kind of hiring that young head coach now to lead your team.
Yeah.
Kellen Moore kind of being the next guy when he eventually ends up getting a head coaching position. But let's go down to the individual teams now and just kind of break down their seasons and just about them. So we'll start off with the Rams and just a couple quick facts about them and their Super Bowl history. So they're the second, we mentioned the second team to play in their home city for the Super Bowl. This is their 5th Super Bowl appearance, but their only win was Super Bowl 34 back in 1999, the greatest show on turf.
That in the 1-yard short game against the Titans in Atlanta. Obviously an amazing offense with a decent defense. You could almost make the story that this Rams team is pretty built similar. I mean, not as good offensively, but still up there offensively. And then, how they really got here, they destroyed Arizona in that wild card game.
Yeah, I mean,
their defense choked them the whole game.
Yeah, and that game was over probably by midway through the second quarter.
Escaped by the skin of their teeth against Tampa Bay.
Yeah, remember they had the big lead. They let Brady come back in that game, and then Matt Stafford to Cooper Kupp set up that Matt Gay field goal to win it for them on the road.
Yeah, and then conference champion, just overpowering in terms of their offense versus a San Francisco offense led by Jimmy G. We said that in our last show before the conference championships. We said, all the 3 quarterbacks left in the conference championships were good, except for, with the exception of Jimmy G.
And, I mean, the defensive front was really held back for most of the game. And then on the final drive, when the 49ers had a chance to either send the game to overtime or win the game, Jimmy G on, the first or second play ends up getting that interception thrown. So the defense really stepping up on that final drive. And when we talk about this Rams team, of course, we mentioned it before, how they're built is basically through the trade market. When you talk about in the offseason trading for Matt Stafford, they traded for Sony Michel right before the season started. And then during the season, they traded for Von Miller and signed OBJ after he was released from the Browns.
Yeah, so this is a Rams team that's really sold their soul. Like we said, all season they've pushed all their chips into the center to gamble on them winning and being able to take home the Lombardi when it's all said and done. And really, they have been able to set up. Every single place that they've had weakness, whether especially starting with the quarterback. We saw them get rid of Goff, replace him with Stafford.
A guy that brought them to the Super Bowl back in 2018 in Jared Goff.
Yes, a guy who was pretty good for them as well. I mean, I won't say he was a world beater, and I would say Stafford's significantly better.
Oh, 100%.
But it's not like Goff's no scrub, I would say. Sonny Michel also added from New England to help bolster a running back committee that had been a little bit injured and messing around, with Malcolm Brown.
I mean, he really stepped up.
Yeah, Daryl Henderson.
You had Cam Akers go down with the Achilles injury. Daryl Henderson
going back. I'm just thinking of old Rams running backs,
Daryl Henderson was banged up in the middle of the season. When we get to the injuries, we'll talk about him. But Sony was kind of a very under the radar trade. They only gave up a 6th round pick and a conditional 5th or 4th round pick for him.
He's not going to be a game changing back, and I don't even think Cam Akers is a game changing back. I'm sorry, pump your brakes on that one, Roach.
But maybe spit out my water.
Von Miller, and then on the defensive side of the ball, Von Miller being added, who's just been awesome for them.
I mean, Von Miller and Aaron Donald on the same defense.
I mean, granted, Miller isn't the same Miller he was in 2015, but he still is one of the better names out there. Mm-hmm. And then getting OBJ, this his crying out of Cleveland.
I mean, it just shows all the complaining kind of helped him to,
I
would say almost revive his career,
he's had a really good offseason. I mean, a really good season this year.
Yeah, just a stretch with the Rams. He's been really good.
But you got to look at their capital they've given up. They've traded two firsts, a second, 2/3, a 4th, and a 6th.
Just for these guys, you go back to Jalen Ramsey, the first rounders they gave up. They haven't had a first round pick since they got Jared Goff number 1 overall back in 2016, and I don't think they don't have this year's first, and I don't think they have next year's first round pick either.
So they really are all in. And, that's, we mentioned all those guys, but we didn't mention, guys like Cooper Kupp and Cam Akers, the guys that they have already in-house.
With their limited draft capital that they've had.
So on their limited drafts, they've been able to hit. Now, let's move to a little bit of something that might mess them up is their injuries. Currently, Tyler Higbee has an MCL sprain and has not practice Wednesday or Thursday.
Yeah, so both tight ends are banged up going into this ballgame. We could have a tight end matchup of Kendall Blanton versus Drew Sample. I mean, that's what everyone's looking for in a tight end matchup. But Tyler Higbee is looking like the less likely guy to play compared to CJ Uzomah. Like you said, he's dealing with the MCL sprain. He hasn't practice since he got injured in the last game, so he's probably not going to be out there. Kendall Blanton played okay after Higbee went down.
Yeah, he's caught a
against
touchdown
San Fran.
this year, I think.
He caught a touchdown versus Tampa in the divisional round game, and then he had 5 receptions.
Yeah, he was the first
in the game
touchdown,
against
and
San
it was
Fran.
like there was like a prop bet.
Yeah, it's like you would have won a lot of money that way. So Higbee, it's looking like he's not going to be out there. One of the other big injuries for them, Daryl Henderson, who's been on the IR since week 16, dealing with the knee injury. He's looking optimistic to play in the ball game. Really, if anything, it's just going to more muddy the waters of who's going to end up getting carries.
Yeah,
Cam Akers has been pretty ineffective since he's come back from the Achilles injury. Sony Michel is really only kind of mixing on passing downs and maybe just here and there. So
I mean, I think I've seen Cam run really hard in the playoff games. He's run tough.
They've been giving him a bunch of carries for a guy that's 5-6 months removed from an Achilles injury.
Yeah, which is insane, and everyone keeps talking about that. I think they should stick with what they have. Maybe keep Henderson as a safety valve because guy like Akers can get shooken up. And potentially, will get shooken up in this game.
Yeah,
so keep Henderson on like the back burner just for situational running.
Yeah, really in the postseason, especially these last 2 games, they've been more relying on Matt Stafford throwing the football. He's had over 300 passing yards. The run game hasn't shown.
Yeah, and you look at these running backs, and none of them are really pass catching backs. Like overall pass catcher backs.
Yeah,
like,
Sony Michel was just like a bruising back when he was with the Patriots. Cam Akers is probably their best pass catcher that they have.
Yeah, but I would say he's more like a balanced guy, not just focused on running. So let's switch to the Bengals. We talked a lot about the Rams. Let's get into the Bengals. This is their first Super Bowl since 1988. We've seen the plethora of playoff losses under Marvin Lewis and all that stuff, the Vontaze Burfict. You guys, Bengals fans, you guys can finally breathe a sigh of relief. I'm sure Super Bowl tickets sold out within minutes in Cincy.
Yeah, and they've been to 2 Super Bowls. This will be their 3rd appearance, but still looking for that Lombardi trophy.
Yes, 0-2, both against the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah,
they have
both
a bad
back in the 80s, 81 and 88.
Yes, ran into Montana and Young and those guys back then. So, your guys have a track record against California teams. It's time to step up. And the coolest thing is the fact that this team has completely turned it around.
Yeah, I mean, they were a 4-win team last season. They were 2-14 back in 2019, so this is the most drastic 2-season turnaround for a Super Bowl team. When you think this is a team that won 2 games, they get the number 1 overall pick, they draft Joe Burrow, only won 4 games last year because Joe Burrow and Joe Mixon both got banged up. So you got another high draft pick, you get Jamar Chase, and I mean, he's one of the biggest keys that helps you really unlock Joe Burrow and really turn this whole offense. The defense steps up as well, and turn them into a team that's now trying to get the first Super Bowl in franchise history.
Yeah, and they are set up for the long run, I think. They have youth all around with Burrow and Chase.
I mean, they're built with just young playmakers.
They're just going to get better on the offensive line. Jonah Williams is kind of the head guy. We're going to get into a position breakdowns. We don't want to go too in depth. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about how the Bengals really got to where they are in this playoffs. First game against the Raiders at home, there was of course that miss,
the whistle.
That erroneous whistle, or whatever everyone was calling. I think that's Joe Burrow's bread and butter, though. Those rollout plays where where the defense has no idea what's going on, and he finds like a guy like Higgins or Chase in the back of the end zone.
Yeah, I mean, you saw it especially in the Chiefs game where he was only sacked 1 time, but he was scrambling so much. He had a couple of big scrambles for first downs in the second half of that game.
And that brings not being sacked. That divisional game against Tennessee. How many sacks was it? 9 sacks.
Yeah, and apparently it could have been double digits.
And they still able to win. I think that's just mainly due to Tannehill's ineffectiveness.
Yeah, 3 interceptions in that game. So
but a win's a win.
That.
A win's a win. You can't blame that. And then of course I would say their marquee win this postseason has been against Kansas City. That was their toughest opponent going into Arrowhead.
I mean, everyone knew Kansas City. That was their 4th straight conference championship game. They were like the big dogs, the team to beat in the AFC, and they were able to, after being down double digits early, came back, forced overtime, lost the coin toss. Everyone's pretty much locked it up as a Chiefs win. Yeah. And the defense really stepped up, especially in the second half, holding the Chiefs to just 3 points. and they're able to get the victory on the road in Arrowhead.
Yeah. So pretty much, we talked about how the Rams are built through the free agency and trades. The Bengals are built through the draft. And that's going to start off with Joe Burrow, the first overall pick from 2019, next to his old throwing buddy, Jamar Chase, drafted last year. T. Higgins, also a stud out of Clemson.
From a couple years ago.
And then Joe Mixon, who's also from Oklahoma. I forgot where he was drafted, but I think he was drafted relatively high.
He was a mid-round pick, I think 3rd or 4th round. Yeah. But all these guys are 25 years old or younger, so that just shows how they've been able to take advantage in the draft and then really just kind of put this offense together that's so young, and then you got the young head coach as well. Where I remember when we were doing our like preseason preview and everything, like no one expected the Bengals to win the division and be here right now in the last week of the season. But it's like you could start to see how like the pieces were coming together with them. And it was nice to see it almost happened a couple years early, but how Joe Burrow started thriving. Jamar Chase had one of the greatest rookie seasons in NFL history. T. Higgins really stepped up as well, and then Joe Mixon, coming off of the injury, played well. So it was nice to see kind of all that come together maybe a couple years earlier than everyone really projected.
Yeah, and the biggest knock on them, obviously going back to last year, was that game against the Washington Commanders. Also, between our absence, we've had a new team in the NFL, the Washington Commanders, the Commies. Gonna get used to time to say that, kind of like
they should have just stayed with
Cleveland
the
Guardians
football team.
Yeah, but that game against the Commanders, where I think it might have been Young who was sacking Burrow, and Burrow's knee he was obviously in pain, and that was the knee injury, the torn ACL and everything, and that goes with that. The guy just looked like he was in pain, and we thought like this is probably going to be a huge step back for a guy who was in his rookie year on such a bad team.
He wasn't putting up great numbers even before the injury too. When you look at it,
I mean, he was putting up steady, like Mac Jones-esque numbers, but like nothing that's going to jump off the page and really put him at the elite. He's gone from guy who's going to be an up and comer to, I would say he's on almost the upper echelon of becoming elite.
Yeah,
I would say he's like one Lombardi away from being elite right now.
You could definitely talk about it, especially if they are able to win the Super Bowl. So, in terms of injuries, really the big one for them is their tight end, like we mentioned, C.J. Uzomah, dealing with a knee injury.
Who's also been a great kind of guy who's
been a great safety
valve. He's come out of nowhere for them.
Yeah,
especially in this postseason.
Yeah, he stepped up, like you said, in the postseason. He hasn't really practiced all week. I did read that he got in a limited session yesterday. He got hurt in their AFC Championship game on one of the first drives of the game against the Chiefs. Yeah. He's come out quoting and saying that he's not going to miss one of the biggest games of his life. So we'll see if he's able to gut it out for one game.
We'll see if the adrenaline and the cortisone gets to him.
Yeah, but he is looking more likely to play than Tyler Higbee for the Rams in terms of the tight ends. The only other big injury news for the Bengals is Jackson Carman, their rookie guard. He's been dealing with injury as well. I saw that he got in a limited session yesterday as well, so he's looking on track to play, at least rotate in on that offensive line. So now that we've talked about each team, let's kind of go position by position, breaking down all these guys and who we think kind of has the advantage going into this game.
Yeah, so we'll try to switch off between teams. So we'll start with the Rams. So I'll start with the Rams. We're looking at Matt Stafford, a guy who's played on the Lions, who just
a great story in and of itself. We just talked about Joe Burrow, like Matt Stafford being stuck on just lowly Lions teams for a dozen years of his career.
Never was putting up terrible numbers, but never was putting up those elite numbers. And now we've seen they've pretty much unlocked his potential. I still think it's going to take maybe a year or two in the system to really put him in a conversation where I'd say, this is one of the best trades they've ever made.
And definitely more consistency from him too.
Yeah, because we know he can be good for an interception every once in a while. We've seen that in Detroit.
And we've seen him really take care of the football a lot better than he did at points during the regular season. I mean, he's got 6 touchdowns to 1 interception, only been sacked 1 time so far in the postseason. So he's been able to limit some of the mistakes that really showed their weaknesses during the regular season.
Yeah, and then flipping the coin, we have Joe Burrow, Joe Cool. Guys just looked so good 842 yards in this postseason, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, but the big knock is 12 sacks.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a little inflated just because of the 9 sacks against the Titans. Like I said, he was only sacked 1 time against the Chiefs last week, or 2 weeks ago. But Burrow's kind of been contained in this postseason. We've mentioned how in the stretch run at the end of the season where they beat the Chiefs in Week 17, he had like 1,000 yards in 2 games, 8 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. So just 4 touchdowns in 3 games. He's almost really been contained, and we know that McPherson has been money just with kicking field goal after field goal in all their ball games.
Yeah.
So I mentioned it when we were doing the Chiefs Bengals breakdown about how it's like, oh, you can't hold this team to field goals, and they held them to field goals, and they still ended up beating the Chiefs. So, but I'll say it once again, I think Burrow really needs to step up and have a Super Bowl performance for them to win. Obviously,
yeah, I definitely think. I think Stafford has the edge in this group, mainly because of experience, Roach. And I know there's not a lot of playoff experience between either guys. Granted, Stafford's played a hell of a lot longer in the National Football League than Burrow has, but I just think because he has all that experience, he's been with guys when the times are great. He's been with guys that at times are bad. Burrow's only been with the guys who have been bad just a little bit. So I think that veteran leadership is what's really going to put Stafford over the edge. And I just think Stafford's finally going to be able to get that monkey off the back. So I think they have the advantage for the Rams in terms of the quarterbacks.
Yeah, I agree, and I'll just add on to that. I think just with the offensive line with not getting sacked, and then also with just recent performance with how bad how Stafford has been better than Burrow in the playoffs. So let's move on to the running back group. We'll start off with the Bengals this time. Joe Mixon is more of the bell cow back. Samaje Perine kind of mixing in on passing down work on 3rd down. So Mixon so far in the playoffs, not flashy numbers, 190 yards on 52 carries, so averaging under 4 yards a carry. Does have a touchdown, but then also getting some receiving work, 13 catches for 106 yards.
Yeah.
Samaje Perine did have a receiving touchdown in that game against the Chiefs that really kind of started to get their offense flowing and back into the ball game. Like I said, it's mainly going to be Joe Mixon, but Perine a nice kind of number 2 back for them.
Yeah, and then with the Rams, it's a kind of a similar story. They have a 1-2 punch. They obviously have their main guy in Cam Akers who came back, 54 carries for a little over 150 yards. Only good for about 2.8 yards per carry. Not a touchdown among any of their running backs in this postseason, Roach. So, and also none of these running backs between Akers and Michelle are really pass catching guys.
Yeah, Akers had the one long catch. I believe it was against Tampa Bay. It may have been against Arizona, but he had one long catch. But besides that, really nothing notable receiving wise from these running backs. Both guys averaging around 3 yards a carry, so they've really been leaning on Matt Stafford in the passing game. Yeah. So I would give the edge to the Bengals just with Joe Mixon to how he's been performing compared to kind of the 1A, 1B. And then when you bring Daryl Henderson into the conversation, you really don't know how they're going to end up splitting up the running back work. If they're going to go with the hot hand, or they're going to go with the guy Akers, who's been their lead back during the postseason. So I definitely give the edge to Mixon and the Bengals running back group.
Especially because they can be pass catchers as well, so that's going to work out for Joe's favor. Now, wide receivers, this is probably the hardest group to diagnose because you have uber talent on both sides of on both sidelines, Roach. And we're going to start with the Rams as they got a lethal combination. Or you could almost say trio, but really it's going to start with Cooper Kupp and OBJ right now because Cooper Kupp, we saw it, triple crown in receiving. Has been great this postseason. 4 touchdowns, a hair under 400 yards, 25 receptions, just won Offensive Player of the Year, and it looks like he's not stopping.
Yeah, I mean, he had that slow game in the first round against the Cardinals where he had like 61 yards and a touchdown, and then against Tampa Bay, he finishes with just under 200 yards, had another over 100-yard game against the 49ers as well. So, I mean, the connection between him and Matt Stafford is just absolutely unbelievable, and it's going to be crazy to see if teams are able to, kind of like how teams adjusted to Pat Mahomes and Tyreek Hill and the Chiefs offense, if teams are going to somehow find a way to adjust to Cooper Kupp and Matt Stafford with the unbelievable connection that they have. Yeah. And then we mentioned OBJ, the addition of him in midseason, how well he did with this Rams offense. He's had a great postseason with 19 catches, 236 yards, and a touchdown. So he's been a great complement to Cooper Kupp. He's been a great red zone target as well. And Van Jefferson, their number 3 guy, hasn't done much this postseason, but he is the home run threat at wide receiver.
Yeah, it's going to be hard because you got Cooper Kupp in the slot. You can work OBJ outside, and then you have Jefferson going deep. So it's kind of 3 levels of 3 tiers of guys, and Kupp can also move around,
Oh yeah, he plays all over the place. Like I said, him and Matt Stafford. Like it just seems like Stafford always knows where he's going. Kupp, like they always are able to somehow find a soft spot.
We're seeing shades of Edelman Brady here with these two. Now let's move to the Bengals, who have just as good of weapons of their own, just a little less experience, and that's definitely going to play into the Rams factor. And for the Bengals, it's going to start with Jamar Chase, the offensive rookie of the year, 20 receptions in this postseason for one for a touchdown and 5 carries for 28 yards. So he's able to also move around a little bit on the ground. Also, T. Higgins, a great number 2. 14 receptions for 209 yards, and then Tyler Boyd, who's kind of like the least known of the 3, even though he's been there the longest.
Yeah, he's been able to kind of find some games where he does well and then kind of disappears in some other games. He got a touchdown in the postseason, but just 62 yards on 10 receptions. So I would say in terms of maybe all around, I think you could make a great argument in saying the Bengals, because they have 3 more well-known guys. All these guys had more than 800 receiving yards during the regular season, that you could make the argument for them having the advantage of the wide receiver position. But I'd say just because of how strong the top 2 guys are for the Rams with Cooper Kupp and then OBJ, how well he's been playing, I'd give a slight edge to the Rams in the receiver category.
And then experience, of course, always helps. Yeah. I mean, these guys have both been in the league for a little bit. OBJ especially. So
because when you
going to play to their strengths.
I would say when you try and break it down, Kupp, I'd give the edge over Jamar. OBJ and T. Higgins, I'd say is a toss up to a slight edge for OBJ.
Yeah,
and then if you talk about number 3, it's going to be Tyler Boyd over Van Jefferson. So because if you kind of add that all up, I'd say it's still a slight edge for the Rams.
Yes. All right, going to tight end. So this one definitely has been changed because the injuries that have gone. So let's just start with let's say with Higbee and Uzomah, between those 2 guys.
Yeah, they put up similar numbers during the postseason. 9 catches for 115 yards for Higbee, Uzomah 13 for 135, and then also having a touchdown. So that's pretty similar numbers. And then you look at their backups. Kendall Blanton, I mentioned, he's got a touchdown in the postseason and then 5 receptions once Higbee went down a couple weeks ago. And Drew Sample only had 1 catch after the
small sample size, huh?
But you'll be here all day, huh? May as well end the show right now. But yeah, he had 1 catch after the Uzomah injury against the Chiefs. So really, it's kind of hard to predict the advantage. Like I said, looking at the injury report, it's looking like Uzomah has a better chance to play than Higbee in this game. I'd say the advantage is whoever starts their starter in this one, but if both starters aren't able to go, just from the small sample size that we have in terms of numbers, it looks like Kendall Blanton would probably have the edge over Drew Sample.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Roach. I mean, it's going to be a game-time decision for both of those guys. And it's looking like Uzomah is probably going to play, whereas Higbee might be more of a scratch. So I definitely would give Uzomah the nod. But if it's Blanton versus Sample, then I'm taking Blanton, just based on what I've seen.
It's a tough group to
it's
grade
not
because that's pretty much the only injuries coming into this game is in that group.
Yeah, this isn't last year's Super Bowl where it was Gronk versus Kelsey. That's a complete different matchup in terms of tight ends. So let's get to the offensive line. Pretty much, we already talked about Andrew Whitworth leading that Rams offensive line. They've allowed 5 sacks in this postseason.
Yeah, in 3 games, very impressive numbers from the offensive line.
And then the Bengals, we already Jackson Carman and also Jonah Williams, an Alabama product. They've allowed 12 sacks. Of course, that's inflated by that 9-sack performance by the Titans.
But it's still pretty obvious the advantage on the offensive line is going to go to the Rams. Not that that's more of a dig against the Bengals, because you saw how Burrow is effective out of the pocket and even can scramble a little bit. But definitely, in terms of the strength of the offensive line, not allowing pressures and everything, that's going to go to the Rams. The Bengals have allowed the most sacks of any team in NFL history with the extra weeks, 63 sacks overall in the season.
Wouldn't it be awesome if they had Penei Sewell Sewell and Jamar Chase.
They made a trade with the Lions or trade up or something
God, they would
like
have to
that.
sell their souls. They would have to do what the Rams do and just sell their souls for this.
Yeah, you want the next 3 first-round draft picks.
So instead of going by defensive group, we're just going to go over defense as a whole.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, we'll start with the Rams. They're going to be led by Aaron Donald, Von Miller, Leonard
Jalen
Floyd,
Ramsey.
J. Ram, and then the
Eric
timeless
Weddle.
Eric Weddle, who's played only the postseason with the Rams.
Yeah, he's trying to just join in the postseason, get a ring, and then go back into retirement.
Yeah, they're pretty good all around. I think their best game was against the Cardinals. Roach, we watched them just dismantle that offense.
Which Kyler Murray, there's a little turmoil going on with him. He apparently deleted all of his Arizona Cardinals related Instagram pictures.
Ooh.
So
yeah, the off season will be fun because we got Aaron Rodgers drama. I've heard Brady drama again.
I mean, Gronk, who knows what's gonna happen with him? There's gonna be a lot of drama that we'll be able to get into.
But speaking of drama, Jalen Ramsey, is leading that secondary. That secondary that is probably, I would say, besides Jalen Ramsey, is probably their biggest weakness. Their biggest strength is going to be their front seven.
Neither of these defenses were amazing during the season. I think they both ranked in the bottom half, 17th and 18th in terms of defensive rating.
Yeah, but we've seen the Rams be able to get pretty much in the backfield pretty much once or twice a game in this postseason. Also have had 1 or 2 interceptions in each of the games.
Pick 6 on Kyler.
Yeah. Now on the opposite side, the Bengals defense has really stepped it up this postseason, and that's going to be starting out with Trey Hendrickson. Their linebacking core is pretty weak, but they got a really good secondary. I think right now
Von Bell, Jesse
Bates, and even Eli Apple. Who would have thought Eli Apple?
Yeah, I mean, and just the biggest performance of the season with them being able to contain the Chiefs in the second half of the AFC Championship game. So just an absolutely crazy effort from them in that game. And Trey Hendrickson, what a difference maker he's really been since coming over from the Saints the offseason.
Yeah, and Sam Hubbard too, also on the defensive line playing well. So I just kind of like this Bengals defense. It's scrappy. It's not showy. It's more scrappy. It's feisty, and it's going to get you. It's gotten them as far as they can take them. And that's why I think the Rams have an advantage. I think the Rams have more depth right now, and I think they have more going for them on the defense. And that's just going to be because they have a guy named Aaron Donald.
I was going to say, and especially when you talk about just big names alone, we were able to rattle off 5 guys easy for the Rams. It's a little harder to think about some of the Bengals guys, but still, I mean, the Bengals defense is really what got them to this game, so we can't really discount them. Yeah,
every single guy on the Bengals defense, I feel like, is a stat darling in terms of, there's probably some Colt fans that, know these guys is playing really well, whereas the average NFL fan, I guarantee you at our Super Bowl party on Sunday, half of the people are going to be like, I can't name a single Bengals player on the defense, Whereas they maybe a few people can name Von Miller or Aaron Donald.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then finally the last group we'll get into is the special teams.
This is low-key exciting, their special teams.
Yeah, I mean, you got Matt Gay and Johnny Hecker on the Rams side, and then Evan McPherson, Kevin Huber on the...
I never even knew Rams had a punter, to be honest with you.
on the Bengals side. So, Matt Gay, 7 of 9 on field goals, perfect for extra points. Remember, he was kind of infamous for missing that field goal short in the Tampa game, I believe. It was a 47-yard field goal or something, and everyone kind of made it. It's how does an NFL kicker miss a 47-yard field goal short?
Yeah, and this is a Rams special teams that's without Greg the Leg. We all knew him for the longest time. Mm-hmm. Now have Matt Gay, who previously we've seen with Tampa. Yeah. He's been in Carolina, stays there as well. It's been pretty good this postseason. Perfect on extra points.
Johnny Hecker's best in the business.
One of the better punters in the league. 45 yards per punt. He could probably get that to 50 to 60 in this game if they need it.
Yeah, and then McPherson on the Bengals side, everyone knows. 4 for 4 on field goals in every single game.
Everyone's loving Evan McPherson.
He might be one of the most popular Bengals. How can you say a kicker would be one of the most popular guys? But I mean, he's just proven 2 game-winning kicks in their last 2 games. He's just been absolutely money in the playoffs for them, and then their punter 41 yards a punt. I mean, definitely give the punter advantage to the Rams, but a big...
Also, we've seen Hecker throw the ball, too, if they want to pull that back tricks.
Yeah, so punter advantage to the Rams, but the kicking advantage definitely going to the Bengals.
When it's all said and done, I think kicking's going to get you more points than punting is, and that's why we're going to give the edge to the Bengals, because I think when it's McPherson versus Gay, you take McPherson. If it's McPherson versus Zerline or something, you take Zerline, but this guy, McPherson hasn't...
I don't know. I mean, you might take McPherson over just about anyone.
But you got to think
like
though. You got to think about I got to think about experience in this situation. These are kicks. These are going to be the highest pressure kicks of these kids' lives.
He's made 3 or 4 50-yard field goals in the playoffs.
He's
made 2 game-winning field goals.
That's true. He's been cool. He's been cool, but this is a whole nother animal.
Okay, I mean, I'm just saying, like, I hate to admit it because he's a Florida guy. Like,
no, I know.
Florida State, but he has been absolutely money, and I think there's very few kickers you'd rather have right now on your team. So.
But I just know it is the Bengals, and their kicking woes, going back to Fat Randy.
Oh, no, yeah, Fat Randy. But, all right, we've given you the facts. Like, we broke down all the position groups. Like, we've done just about everything we can to give you information about this game.
Let's do a little fun stuff real quick before we get into prediction, though. Let's talk about some prop bets, halftime show, and prop bets and halftime show.
All right, let's hear it.
So, first prop bet is the national anthem. Now, this is going to be, I actually have no idea who this person is, Mickey Guyton.
Couldn't tell you.
Have you ever heard?
I don't know. Hopefully, it's not a guy that we should know.
Yeah, so I've never heard of him. Last year, I think it was the under, I took the over in terms of it.
I think you're right. I would go with the under. I don't know why. I'm just thinking under.
Yeah, I forgot I can't find the line right now. I forgot what it usually is.
I mean, it's a little over. It's usually a hair over a minute, like a minute 15 or something like that.
Yeah. Here it is. I just put 138 even.
Oh, never mind. That seems very high.
Oh, let's take the over.
That's not. I feel like that's a long time to sing the national anthem.
Last year was Demi Lovato, right?
Last year or 2 years ago, maybe.
It was Demi Lovato, and so this Mickey guy, I've never heard of him. So so the longest anthem runs at average 1 minute 56 seconds.
Oh, okay.
Let's take the over.
All right. I mean, I guess life's too short to bet on the under. So.
Yeah, so let's take the over. And then we have a few other prop bets: heads or tails. I'm taking tails. Tails never fails. You never can go against tails. And then we look at what the halftime show.
Yeah.
Halftime show is going to be awesome this year. First time.
There's stuff about the commentators, how many times they mention
someone.
Oh
yeah, who's going to be brought up?
Who gets brought up in a pregame show?
Tom
who
Brady,
gets brought up first?
Yeah.
Different names that they mention and stuff. So
you
got that. There's wardrobe changes, which is going to be really weird this year because you got 5 or 6 performers.
Yes. So for the first time in a while, I'm looking forward to this halftime show because we have Eminem, Kendrick Lamar,
Snoop Dogg, Mary J.
Blige, and then Dr. Dre, of course, to bring it all together. I don't know why they brought Eminem, a guy from Detroit, in. I guess because of Dr. Dre days, they were buddies. But other than that, everything's pretty California focused. I mean, this is going to be a whole California, praise California. California is the greatest thing ever. Experience.
But yeah, I would say that this is probably one of the first times in a while that I might actually sit down and watch the halftime show from start to finish instead of just going and grabbing
getting some
food
snacks. Yeah, it's always snack time because the last few years have just been awful.
Yeah.
Going back to Maroon 5 and Bruno Mars and just stuff like that.
The Weeknd
last
year.
Yeah,
that was
the weird
interesting performance.
Yeah, the Shakira one we liked.
Yeah.
I do remember the Shakira
was good.
So that's going to be and then the prop bet. My last favorite prop bet is the Gatorade color.
It was a weird one last year, one
blue.
that was a pretty.
It was blue.
Yeah, I feel like it was one that was a pretty big, underdog.
Yeah,
for it.
I think I put purple or something.
I feel like the red, oranges, the common colors, or maybe team colors are the best or the worst odds, and then you get
it's one of my favorite prop bets because there's always somebody who's close to the team or something who's gonna
leak
it.
information.
Yeah, but it's never right. It's never right. I know
the leaked information has never been right.
Yeah,
so
and
try not to follow that.
And sometimes teams have 3 or 4 different Gatorade coolers. Where it's like, which one are they going to dump on the coach?
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like whatever the players grab first. So
if I was Gatorade, I would totally come out with like a crazy flavor no one's had that's like green or something, and just be like, oh, no one picked green.
It's just like straight black or something like
that.
Yeah,
it's just water. It's clear.
I think you can bet on clear though. I feel like that's one of the guesses where it's just water.
I feel like the Rams, because they're from California, would have something really healthy, so they would have like just water.
Yeah, it'd be green. It's like a kombucha or something like that, like a health drink.
That would be. I don't know if you knew this. I know we're kind of getting off on a tangent, but the LA Stadium is like, it's for football, but they have so much crap there that's not football related. That's just for people who want to go be around the stadium. They have like nail salon, I think. They have like wine tasting bars, and
so they have kind of like a battery area like we have here in Atlanta, but it's like
California stuff.
Yeah.
Like, they have like massage things and stuff.
It's
like
white collar stuff. Like
yeah, they're not gonna have a PBR next to the.
Yeah. Okay, I gotcha. So it's very different atmosphere.
Yeah, because
what we're used to.
I hate how corporate it's become. The Super Bowl has come. The regular fan can't go to this game. Really.
Yeah, it's just about
it's about the corporate.
Impossible.
Yeah, it's about the corporate greed, and there's going to be a lot of people who are going there just for the experience, not to watch the football game.
Just get that Instagram picture.
Of course, yeah, it's going to be like Coachella, but for stupid Coachella for a football game.
All right, Stein, we've held off long enough. Let's get to the scores. Who's going to win? Prediction for the Super Bowl MVP.
I'll go first, Roach. I am taking the Rams, and that's simply because I think they're like the Dodgers. The Dodgers, we've seen them miss a bunch of times. Finally, were able to hit after spending everything that they had, and I just think this Bengals team is not. They're definitely going to be competing for the years to come. Mm-hmm. But they're just not there yet. They're still missing that defensive X factor, that head coach that's been there before. And McVay's been there before, and he doesn't make the same mistake twice usually.
I mean, held to 3 points in the last Super Bowl?
Yeah, true, against, in Atlanta against Brady. So I'm taking the Rams 31-16, bookmark it. That puts us right below the under. So, screw me for taking the under. And I'm also going to take Matt Stafford for MVP. I think
makes sense.
I think a 31-16. And I think there's too many names on the defense. Aaron Donald probably has good odds, but I think the best odds are probably Stafford.
Yeah. All right. Well, I am leaning in the opposite direction. I like that we actually have the prediction different.
Yeah.
I'm going more on the community side, what everyone I feel like kind of wants to see it. Even though both teams, I would say, are pretty likable in this game. I'm going with the Bengals in this one.
I'm going to make you a bet.
All right, let's hear it.
We're going to bet. We're going to handshake right now before you handshake.
I was going to say, let me hear what it is.
I picked the Rams. You picked the Bengals.
Yeah.
Loser has to drink a cup of prune juice.
A cup of prune juice, like a full cup of it.
Like a Dixie cup size.
Okay.
I can't drink a full cup of that shit.
I mean, I feel like I could do that. It's
not like a shot, but like
that's an interesting bet. But I'll take that.
Prune juice is the most disgusting thing. You remember coconut juice?
Yeah.
Take that times 10.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I've had prune juice before, and I know it's bad.
I saw it in the grocery store the other day, and I don't know why it got me thinking that. So.
All right, a very interesting thing to bet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll do that. I'm sure we can maybe film it or something like that and throw it in on one of the
reels
on the next podcast when we do a recap
season
for it. But yeah, I'm going with the Bengals in this one. I feel like my picks have been absolutely terrible during the playoffs, so that could be a bad omen. I'm sorry, Bengals fans, in advance, but I don't know. I just feel like riding on the Bengals. They've continued to prove me wrong in terms of I'm like, they don't have a chance in this game against Kansas City, against Tennessee. I didn't pick them in either of those games, and they've continued to prove me wrong. So I think I'm finally going to hop on and just continue the ride with them. And I'm picking the quarterback of the winning team as well.
Ride. They're playing with house money. It's a cliche, but they really are, Roach.
Yeah, and I picked Joe Burrow for Super Bowl MVP.
I like both of these teams. There's not like a villain team.
That's what I'm saying.
There's not the Packers. There's not the Cowboys. There's not the Patriots.
I mean, besides maybe like OBJ, like Giants fans, Browns fans, like don't like OBJ. I don't know how Denver fans feel about Von Miller.
Yeah,
being
people
traded.
don't like Jalen Ramsey.
Jacksonville fans, I don't know. I feel like there's not a whole lot of unlikable guys on either of these teams. Everyone likes the Matt Stafford story. Everyone likes the Bengals story.
Yeah.
Cam Akers coming off the injury. Cooper Kupp has been great.
The
story about him in college with his wife. a great story as well.
This is exactly what the NFL needed. You still have a huge market taking on the little market that shows the little market can still survive and thrive. This opens the door for Buffalo. This opens the door for Cleveland and Tennessee for all those guys to really have chances against the San Frans and the LAs and the Dallases of the world. So this is going to be great for the health of the NFL. And we're just excited for the game.
Yeah,
of course. We have big plans. We have friends coming over. Me and Roach will probably get to my parents early, and we'll be watching all the pregame stuff because we're not the people that just watch the commercials.
We'll be betting a little bit of money as well. So
we're also going to be. I think you and I, maybe a few other guys who actually want to watch the game. We're going to try to find a different location compared to where everyone else is going to be because I love everyone who's coming over, but there's going to be a point where we're going to be like, all right, shut up. It's time for the football.
Find a TV in silence so we can watch the game.
But guys, it's been awesome. We will have a Super Bowl recap, and then we'll also recap for the next few weeks after. Might go, by conference and talk about how every team's done, what their outlook's going to look like until we get to the draft and free agency.
So we'll still have shows even after the Super Bowl and the season is over, but I know everyone's going to be excited.
We have so many new head coaches we need to talk about,
Yeah,
too.
Exactly.
Yes.
So I know everyone's excited about the game. Enjoy watching it on Sunday. I know we're going to enjoy it, but that's going to do it for this episode of the Couch Quarterbacks podcast. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and follow us on Instagram at the Couch Quarterbacks. For Andrew Steinberg and Ben Rochford. Wow, I got way ahead of myself.
I was about to say, were you doing a bit?
For Andrew Rochford, that's Ben Steinberg, and we will see you guys on the flip side.
See ya.